Coming up on Currently, we have restaurant and retail updates, plus a discussion about the future of two important buildings in downtown Traverse City. First, we're launching a brand new feature with a new guest that will have you craving more. That's all ahead on Currently. Welcome to Currently, where we discuss some of the top local stories directly from the journalists who are covering them. I'm your host, Crystal Frost. This podcast was recorded on Thursday, September 4th. The Tigers are 81-60, heading into September baseball with a magic number of 13. That said, things may change by the time you're watching or listening. Support for Currently comes from Golden Fowler Home Furnishings, located on South Garfield Avenue in Traverse City. It's home fashion elevated. And from West Shore Bank. When you choose West Shore Bank, you're not just choosing a bank. You're choosing a partner committed to the well-being of our community. You can visit them today on 8th Street or at westshorebank.com. Support also comes from the Coin Slot Arcade Bar in Traverse City. It's a chill hangout with a full bar in a low-key setting. Welcome to Currently, Beth Milligan, number 31. How are you?
Good.
Traverse City Ticker's head writer.
Yes.
You write about more than heads, though.
I write about so many, all the body parts.
All the body parts.
I guess. Yeah.
Beth, it feels like we are breaking new ground today because we are starting a new segment that will sprinkle in, just like here and there, a little bit of seasoning to the show once in a while. And this gentleman over here, Gary Gatzke, the Great Gatsky as we call him, he's the Director of Continuing and Community Education for Interlochen College of Creative Arts. Got that? The principal double bass for Traverse City Philharmonic and the Great Lakes Chamber Orchestra. Got that?
That's correct.
And you are the Director of Sandwich Enjoyment for Gatzke Industries. Welcome, Gary.
Thank you, Crystal. It's a pleasure to be here.
Well, it is such a great pleasure to have you here because we are, I have to say, this is kind of a weird way to kick off a new segment, but we love food.
Yes.
Here on Currently. We like to try new things. And we are going to launch something called Food Fight, where we pick two similar food items from eateries right here in northern Michigan, and they go head to head, right? And we're going to start it today with something very, very special. Now, Beth, we both mourned the loss of Mary's Kitchen Port in early August.
Yes, as I know Gary did also.
Gary, we all mourned. I know some of us were scrambling to get there for the last Gobblers.
Yeah, the lines, we talked about that on the show, were crazy the last couple of days that Mary's was open.
And it was, it really is a loss. It was around for, decades, I believe. And Beth, you have covered, which is kind of interesting to say from a journalist perspective, but journalism is about covering the culture in the area too. And the Gobbler and Mary's Kitchen Port became part of the Traverse City culture.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything more important that I've written about in my 20, some years of writing in Traverse City than about sandwiches. I take sandwiches very seriously. But obviously, like, the Gobbler is such a beloved sandwich. We did a story, and I'll post it in the Facebook comment section of the show, but we did a story kind of about the history of the Gobbler, which I was interested to learn when I reported this story. It originally started out as what was called the French Gobbler.
Oh.
So the Gobbler that we know today had sprouts and a croissant bun originally. And then in the 90s, people were asking for a kind of a healthier bread option than a croissant. So they decided to make the transition to a bread flour recipe. They began making their focaccia daily in-house, that little sea salt on top that everybody loves. And that kind of distinct salty crust of the sandwich really accelerated their sales. And they've sold hundreds of sandwiches per day. They went through, at the time I talked to them, 400 pounds of turkey a week.
And that was 10 years ago.
That was 10 years ago. Lettuce, tomatoes, which is important because the tomatoes eventually transitioned out, but they did have tomatoes, and Hellman's mayo, and just a beloved sandwich. They told me it came in at just under 600 calories.
Wow.
Oh. So a little bit of history of
No.
the sandwich there. But yes, sadly, R.I.P. to Mary's.
Yeah, so Mary's went away, and that brought in, kind of a hole in the market, if you will.
Yeah.
So we wanted to bring on two new sandwiches here, and one is not actually that new, but Bay Bread did something very interesting. As soon as Mary's Kitchen Port was closed, they started, they have their own version of the Gobbler. They call it the MKP. And it's gotten rave reviews, right? Mm-hmm. Lots of people seem to like it. I think, it's not going to be exactly like the Gobbler, maybe. Sure. I don't know. I've never tried it. Today will be a
tried
first.
it either, yeah.
But it is one of those things that they are selling out daily as well, right? So it definitely is something that people want. And we have another sandwich that has been around for a number of years and aptly named from the kitchen. This is just called the turkey sandwich.
And I kind of like just understated.
It's very understated.
Not putting on airs.
And it has been around. It's been available, and it's in their deli case. It's one of my favorites. I love it. It's just a simple turkey sandwich. Both are on focaccia bread, and they seem to be popular, right?
Yeah.
So we thought, let's try them, let's see what we think. Okay?
I'm ready. I'm ready to fight.
So we have our lovely assistant here,
Okay.
Jordan,
Okay.
who I guess we have to move computers.
Yeah.
Is going to give us a little taste of these. I'll just take this little guy.
Okay. I'll take this one here is the
That's
MKP.
This is the MKP. So
Okay.
this was a direct answer to the loss of Mary's Kitchen Port, right?
Okay.
Bay Bread saying, you know what, we've got this.
And Bay Bread just around the corner from Mary's.
Yeah, and it looks very similar. It looks like it's got turkey.
It does look similar. You got the shredded cheddar.
The shredded cheddar, which
Yeah.
is really a trademark.
Okay,
right?
I'm going to put this in my mouth.
Okay.
Okay.
Very similar.
Mm-hmm.
If I could share a quick story,
Please.
picture it, late 90s, Traverse City, driving around in my mother's sapphire blue Buick Park Avenue Electra. I had the radio on, a local station at the time, when a radio announcer was talking about Mary's Kitchen Port and what they offered menu-wise for that day. And they described the sandwich with the rosemary focaccia with sea salt turkey sandwich. And I thought, well, I need to go find this Mary's Kitchen Port. I was in high school. And so I did, and that was my first venture into the world of the Gobbler. And it was I never turned back from that.
Radio works.
Radio does work, and check that out. And so do podcasts.
Yeah, and I love the idea for the podcast that folks are just going to listen to us chew for a second.
I feel like this is really close. It's really close. I mean, almost exact. Maybe not as salty. Maybe the bread isn't as
it's
salty.
good salt. It's not quite. It doesn't have like the grains of sea salt, but I would say the bread is maybe was a little crunchier. Mary's are thicker, like a different like texture, but delicious. This is still really great.
And I'm remembering more of a hint of rosemary.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to put this over here.
So I'm going to devour that later.
Yes. So mine is the one with lipstick on it. So very good. And I think the next one that we're going to try from the kitchen, as you said, understated. It's just called turkey sandwich. And here we go. This also has the focaccia.
Okay, so I see tomatoes, the first difference.
Yeah, so the first difference is that we're going to have some tomatoes.
I'll let you
Real
have
thick turkey here.
The bread is immediately like a more golden color, different coloring. Looks a little fluffier.
And
the
also
bread.
sliced cheese. And I mean, mind you, I don't know that this was ever a direct answer to,
Right.
the Gobbler, but I think people have compared it to. So let's try it.
Okay. Okay.
Oh, it's a crunchy lettuce. I like that.
Oh, that's nice.
I'm into both of these sandwiches.
Oh my gosh, me too.
Okay, the bread is like a much more, it is fluffier. It looks fluffier and it tastes fluffier. It's like a little bit lighter and chewier.
Not as salty. So it's missing the salt, but boy, it's light. You think with a massive sandwich like this, it wouldn't be so light.
It's got a little more punchiness on the mayo or something like that. It's a little
Agreed.
more flavorful on the condiment side. It's really good.
From a texture standpoint, I wonder if the single piece of cheese, although I take that back, there are two slices, one on the top and one on the bottom. But if the experience would be different if it were shredded cheese.
Oh, I wonder. I really like this sandwich.
To me, it's a little bit airier. It's not quite as dense as the other one, so it's a little bit easier to eat. But the flavors on both of them are really good.
So good. So, yeah, I mean, wow.
I don't think you can go wrong with either one.
I don't think you can. I think when it comes to the purpose of Bay Bread, like really trying to get the MKP to be like the Gobbler, I think they nailed it.
Yeah, I think it's a more closer approximation. And again, we don't. This is might just be the kitchen's, turkey sandwich. Take no connection to Mary's Kitchen Port, but it's still a great sandwich. I mean, the kitchen has so many great grab and go options if you haven't been to their deli. And I will tell you, my little hack, if you are going on a picnic or you want to try something later, you don't want a sandwich that day, they sell these little focaccia loaves at the kitchen in a bundle of 3 for about $7. They're delightful. You can obviously make turkey, but if turkey's not your thing, you can still get the bread and make all other kind of sandwiches at home. And they last, I keep them for about a week.
Oh, wow.
They stay fresh, so
I love it.
Pro tip.
So, I mean, we're calling this food fight, and I would say both win on different merits.
Yeah.
The one that is more like the Gobbler, probably going to be MKP.
Yeah, I'd say that's 100%.
100%.
I agree.
But I'm going to tell you, I think maybe I'm going to feel bad about this, but I think I prefer the kitchen's turkey sandwich as a personal. I don't know.
Yeah, it is, like I said, it's just like a lighter, it's an easier eat. But yeah, for sure, that's a closer Gobbler approximation.
So when you're having like those, you're wanting to feel Gobbler again, go to Bay Bread and pick up the MKP. Can't go wrong. But if you're looking for any other sort of like, hey, I just want a turkey sandwich, the kitchen for the win for that.
Yep.
In my book. How about you, Gary?
Oh, I agree. They're both fantastic.
Yeah.
Rest in peace, Mary's Kitchen Port Gobbler. But we will move on. We will learn to live and love again in the world of turkey sandwiches, and we're very fortunate to have these two options here in Traverse City.
Absolutely, and thank you to Bay Bread for doing that, because I did feel like, oh my gosh, is this a Gobbler? Yeah, that's what they want. I love it. And now a word for West Shore Bank. So can you believe it's already back to school season? I swear we were just packing beach bags, and now it's backpacks and lunch boxes, at least for some. And let's be honest, between supplies, clothes, tech, sports gear, it adds up fast. That's why I'm really excited to tell you about a new feature from West Shore Bank called the Savings Center. It's right in their WSB Touch app. And honestly, it's kind of a game changer. You can create a savings goal for back-to-school expenses, set up automatic transfers, even round up your everyday purchases, so you're saving without even noticing. You buy a coffee, boom, a little extra goes straight into savings. It's like tricking yourself into being responsible, and I need all the help that I can get. It's perfect for parents, students, or anyone trying to stay ahead of fall spending. And the best part, you're working with a local bank that really gets our community. No giant call centers, just friendly faces and branches right here in northern Michigan. So before the school year sneaks up on you, which for a lot of us it already has, get a plan in place. Download the WSB Touch app and check out the Savings Center today. West Shore Bank, saving made simple right here at home. Products and services may require enrollment. Other terms, conditions, and fees may apply. Welcome back to Currently. And Beth, I feel like we have full bellies now, right?
Yes.
Now we have full bellies. We've been fed, so feed us some dessert in the form of news.
Digest the news.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Yeah, there's a lot to talk about. Well, we can kind of stay on the food trend if we want to talk about some restaurant and retail news.
Yeah, I love that. Let's do that. Let's talk about another roundup. Now, you've done a couple of these in the last few months.
Yeah, we had one on the show last week, and I think I had mentioned that there was more coming because we just had a lot going on.
Change be happening.
So this week, we had some information. First of all, I guess on the restaurant front, since we were mentioning food, Old Mission Tavern on Old Mission Peninsula, out in my neck of the woods. That restaurant hit the market last year. It is poised to reopen under new owners.
Okay.
So Stephanie Kropka and Brian Daly, partners. Stephanie's originally from Old Mission. They both moved back from the Chicago area recently. They are in the process of finalizing the purchase. They're waiting for the liquor license transfer to go through. And then they're hoping to open the restaurant in November. They both have extensive hospitality experience. They did say they're going to be updating the menu.
Oh.
So they said they may feature some old menu items as rotating specials, but it sounds like they're going to be quite a new menu for that space.
Are they going to keep the name?
So far, I think so. They didn't mention. Yeah, I think it's a well-known. There's only a few places to eat out on Mission, so good news for folks out there. We also had some retail news, especially on Front Street. Some changes coming to Front Street. So first of all, really a long time talking about Mary's Kitchen Pour, almost a business who's been in business just about the same amount of time, over 40 years. Trains and Things Hobbies is closing its doors at the end of September. Wow. Have you ever been in, Gary?
Yeah. I have.
So you got your, all kinds of like model trains, hobby kind of crafts.
Airplanes.
All, just a really beloved store. It's moved around downtown Traverse City over the decades. It was originally on the river north of Front Street in the alley. It later moved to the kind of front area of the City Opera House. And then, since the early 2000s, it's been in its current home on East Front Street. So Peter Magoon says, thanks everyone for all the years of support, closing September 30th. And then we will see. He hasn't yet said what's going to happen with the space, but a prominent storefront will be open on Front Street there.
Yeah, that's a very big store too.
Yeah. So, and then a little bit further down Front Street in the Beetle Building, probably one of the most well-known buildings in downtown Traverse City where Mackinac Brewing Company used to be, right at the corner of Front and Cass. Devin Keast, who's a local comedian, he is going to be opening a comedy room in the basement, the lower level of the Mackinac Brewing Company building.
Now, I knew there was a lower level down there, but I guess I didn't remember it.
Yeah, I was trying to think. I've obviously, as many longtime locals I've been in Mackinac Brewing Company many times, but I didn't really remember the basement that well either. I don't know. Have you, Gary?
I have not. I remember mostly that building in particular when it was a big boy.
The big boy, yes.
Oh, now we're going back. Now you might be dating yourself a little.
I remember it as a big boy. That was great.
Well, no, my sister worked there, and it was fun to go in and make fun of her as an employee, and I was a young
as you do
teen,
Yeah. So it's getting into its new phase of life. So that's the first new use that's been announced for that building since John Carlson, who's a local restaurant owner, bought it in 2023. So the club, which is called Voyageurs, is going to be underneath about 50, 60 seats. They're going through renovations right now. They hope to be open in November with a mix of a couple local shows, open mics, and then some headliners on the weekend.
That's great.
And then I talked to John Carlson for this story just to ask, what's going on with the rest of the building? Because you've seen some, kind of if you walked by, you've seen some work happening in it. He said he does have a tenant for the ground floor. He's really excited about. He could not share the identity of who that tenant is quite yet. It sounds like that we'll be able to maybe report on that soon. And he did say it's not like anything else in town. He said there's no one like them in town. So something new coming in there soon.
So getting back to the comedy, I'm super excited about this. I know we have the comedy place, and I'm blanking on the name right now.
Traverse City Comedy Club over on Garfield.
Yes. In the former other place, which was dating myself too. I loved that place. But that does pretty well. They bring in a lot of comedians, and I think, we probably have room for another one, especially as a venue for these up and coming comedians. It's hard to do open mic nights, right? When you don't have a place to, practice your material.
Yeah. And that's, I think, what Devin was really, when I spoke to him, he was really talking about, having a free open mic, having maybe a week, like he talked about being open Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and then Thursday would be kind of a local showcase that would be affordable. The kind of more the touring national headliners, 2 shows on the weekends. And he also, I thought, just like a nice touch to someone who obviously really cares about comedy, but always holding it is going to have a full bar. Always holding a few bar seats for any local comics who want to come attend shows for free.
Oh,
just
that's cool.
That's how he kind of learned in his career. So
Very nice.
Really trying to make it a real comics room.
That's really cool. 50 to 60 seats. And I know you have a lot to do with the Traverse City Comedy Festival too. So having another venue is always good.
That never hurts.
No?
Yes.
That's fantastic. Any other retail restaurant news in this roundup?
Yeah, I'll just mention a few quick things that we touched on. One, is, over on Munson Avenue, that big building over there that used to be the Travers Victorian Inn. It was assisted living facility that has reopened as a new hotel called the Vic. And so that you can see now a lot of life back on that property. Laurentide Winery, which is out in Lake Leelanau, just recently got city commission approval to open a tasting room in that hotel.
Nice.
So I did talk to the Laurentide owners. They're still going through the regulatory approvals, which can take quite a bit of time, but they do eventually hope to open a tasting room there in Traverse City.
Very, very cool.
Yeah.
Well, if you want to find out more, you just go to traversticker.com and you look for that story. It's easy as that. I love it. We are going to take a quick break right now, and a word for one of our most treasured friends, Golden Fowler Home Furnishings. It is our favorite time of year again. I mean, it is my favorite time of year. It's local summer. That's that sweet spot when, the tourists head home, the lines get shorter, and we get to enjoy our beautiful town all to ourselves, right? What better way to celebrate that by refreshing your home for the season ahead? At Golden Fowler Home Furnishings, they've gone all out, inside and out, with the coziest, trendiest fall styles. But here's my favorite part. Every single purchase you make in September helps support our own Northwestern Michigan College. That means when you pick out that new dining table, you're not just upgrading your home, you're investing in our community. Locals supporting locals. That's the kind of thing that makes Traverse City feel like Traverse City. So come wander the showroom, take a seat, stretch out. Yes, they'll let you try out the furniture, I promise. And celebrate local summer at Golden Fowler Home Furnishings on Garfield Avenue in Traverse City. It's Golden Fowler, furniture that you'll love to come home to. Welcome back to Currently. We are going to transition into a story I've been super excited to hear about. Beth, you covered an update on the Bijou and the Carnegie buildings. And these are two very iconic, very well-known buildings in Traverse City. And the future has, been uncertain for a number of years, really. Mm-hmm. And in terms of the Bijou, it was kind of hit and miss when it was occupied by the Traverse City Film Festival as to whether or not it was going to be opening. There were a lot of conversations around that. You wrote a lot of stories about that. The same thing with the Carnegie. It is an iconic building in Traverse City. And, what will the future hold for these two?
Yeah. I mean, so this is going to be a big topic of conversation for, the next month or two with both the Parks and Recreation Commission, who are going to be discussing it. Actually, really, as we're taping today, Thursday evening, they're discussing at the Governmental Center. But then it will go to the City Commission on October 13th at a study session and potentially some action on October 20th, the regular meeting. So people have some chances at those meetings to share public comment if they like. But with the Bijou, it's obviously been vacant since the end of December when the Traverse City Film Festival terminated its lease early last year. So it's just been sitting there in Clinch Park. And Carnegie has been occupied by Crooked Tree, Art Center for about a decade now. And they, have a really thriving nonprofit there. It's been pretty active in that space, but their lease was coming up for renewal. And that sort of brought up the question, which often happens with city contracts, city properties, where sometimes other people are interested in using a particular thing or in working with the city. So when Carnegie's lease was coming up, which was going to be happening this summer, back in December, the commission had a conversation about a lease extension for Crooked Tree. And at that time, Traverse Area District Library also came forward and said, wait a second, before you extend Crooked Tree's lease, we'd like to throw our hat in the ring as well. We are interested in coming back to this building. Obviously, folks who know Traverse City history, the Carnegie building started as a library. Yep.
It's the old library.
Tattle had its main library branch there for many years until they moved over to their Woodmere location. And they are proposing coming back into the Carnegie Building and sort of opening a city museum and archive. They have a large local history collection over at Tattle that they're running out of space for. They're turning away donations. They need more room to put that somewhere. The city's Con Foster collection is already in the Carnegie Building. So it's there, mostly in the basement. So they are sort of proposing having all those things in one place where there can be classrooms and labs and sort of a place for learning. Now, obviously, Crooked Tree having invested in that space over the last decade, having had to deal with some building issues like HVAC issues, having paid their, rent regularly and sort of established a Traverse City presence, wasn't thrilled about a competing proposal coming forward and really advocated for the investment that they've made in that. What I think is going to happen from here, and I talked to interim city manager Benjamin Maritet about this, what often happens with public spaces or public contracts is a request for proposal process, an RFP. So rather than try to use an maybe unfair or biased process where you're like, well, we kind of like these people or this, they're trying to find the most consistent, fair way to say to a essentially private entity, here's how you can use a city-owned public building. So it seems that they are heading in the direction of using an RFP process for both the Carnegie Building and the Bijou. That would allow proposals to come forward from the community. Usually as part of the RFP process, they'll be talking about what's going to be our criteria, how do we evaluate proposals. Maybe there are certain things we're looking for. It might be how much money is a tenant going to pay in rent, what kind of services are they offering to the community, what's their environmental sustainability look like. I mean, all kinds of issues that they could look at, but then they would open it up to the public to say, give us your proposals for using this space. Crooked Tree certainly at Carnegie would be one of those groups that would be allowed to reapply or to submit a proposal to stay in the Carnegie Building, but Tattle could come forward if they wanted to with an official RFP bid. The Tribe, which has expressed interest in the Bijou, could do that. I've also seen a petition circulating since the story came out with Eugene's Record Co-op of opening a community performing arts center, like a music venue in the Bijou that they're advocating for to provide a low-cost way for groups to be able to perform in a space. So I think we're going to see some interesting proposals come forward for both of those buildings.
Yeah, I mean, that is very interesting. So in the interim, though, the lease was up for Crooked Tree. It was extended
through October 2026.
Okay, so just for a year.
So basically, when in December they had approved it, so just a little under 2 years. The lease was going to be up this summer, and they understood. I mean, the city wanted to give them time. They had programming already in the books. I mean, nonprofits work, especially in arts, months if not years out. So they wanted to give them that time, but they didn't want to do a long-term lease renewal until they had this conversation about creating a consistent, equitable process for who uses city spaces. The Carnegie Building being, opening in 1905 also has a lot of building issues. And they want to address that. How are we going to make sure the building upkeep is addressed before we sign another long-term lease?
I do want to point out that interim city manager Benjamin Maritet did say this, and I have to quote your story here, where he said, it's not black and white. The history and investment and commitment that the organizations have demonstrated to a city endeavor is important. But that doesn't mean it's a slam dunk. And he also mentioned, I'm genuinely looking for input from the public on how these spaces could be used. And I think that's a really interesting caveat into Eugene's Record Co-op saying, well, the people want a performing space.
Yeah, at the Bijou, right.
At the Bijou. And for the Carnegie, maybe you have more people who say, we would like to have more of a historical, I don't necessarily want to say a museum, but that's really what they would be using it for.
Yeah, and I'll say having covered these for different, like I've also covered contracts like a kayak rental in the Clinch Park or something. It's a tricky balance because you'll have the people who came in first and invested and built up a business, and now their whole model is built on being in a space. Say, like, it's super unfair for me to, like, now have to try to compete with someone who's going to come in and coast on the success that we had or what we put into the building. And potentially lose all of our investment of what we've done. Now, the flip side of that is someone who's new would say, well, why does this organization get to keep using a public city building at a low cost and no one else is allowed to bid or submit a use that maybe we would either pay more money or, like you said, maybe more people in the public would like it. So it tends to be a process that everyone gets a little frustrated about.
I bet,
But I think what's important to remember is at the end of the day, they are taxpayer-owned city buildings. No organization has a right to use them, but the city does also want to provide services or offerings that'll be interesting to the public and have those buildings be well used and have their costs covered. I think they really are trying to just find the most fair way to do that.
I have an idea for Carnegie, so I'm just launching this petition right now.
Okay.
I would like an indoor bounce house.
Ooh.
I think that's what Carnegie had in mind when he gave.
When
the
Andrew
building
Carnegie
to the
said,
city.
"This I shall gift to you, Traverse City, for an indoor bounce house."
In 100 years, there's going to be technology.
120 years. It would be a giant blower motor.
That sounds good. I think you should definitely put an RFP in for that.
You know what? I will. I think I will. What do you think, Gary?
It's not a bad idea and something that I think would bring the community together. I think you're onto something here, Crystal.
I think I am.
So-
Everybody loves a bounce house.
And Andrew Carnegie, the Carnegie Library is all over the state and the Midwest. You go to Cadillac, you go to Petoskey. When I was in college, I got to play in Carnegie Hall. So that would be, Carnegie Hall would be a great place for maybe like a sky zone.
Yes.
Jumping from various, levels of the whatever, the hall itself.
Trampoline park /
Trampoline park.
performing arts.
As long as there's a little
Skydiving.
one outside where you the ones where you jump on it and then someone launches
Yes.
into the Boardman River.
That's a fantastic idea.
So we'll just do a separate proposal on that.
Well, thank you both for being here. It was such a fun post-Labor Day conversation where we launched the food fight, by the way. And, I just want to say another kudos to the kitchen and to Mary's, the MKP, which is the homage to Mary's Kitchen Port from Bay Bread. They are both fantastic sandwiches. Yep. I think it's going to be hard for me for every one of these food fights to like one over the other because I like food. That's just how it is.
Yeah, everyone's a winner.
Everyone's a winner. Everyone gets a trophy. But yeah, thank you both for being with us today. And before we go, is there anything that you're looking forward to in the coming weekend or week? How about you, Gary? You want to go?
Well, I'll be performing this weekend with the Great Lakes Chamber Orchestra up in Bayview, the John Hall Auditorium, which is always a tongue twister because it could be at the John Hall, but it's the John Emma Hall Auditorium. It's a concert of Beethoven and Mozart, and that's with the Great Lakes Chamber Orchestra on Saturday evening. So a couple of rehearsals and a performance.
Are there tickets still available for that?
There are.
Good.
The
Okay.
Great Lakes Chamber Orchestra can be found on the web, Great Lakes Chamber Orchestra.
Okay. Just,
Google
put
it.
that in there. Put that
find
in
it.
there. Would they consider doing a concert with a bounce house next to it?
Really on the bounce
Well,
house
people
thing?
are just bouncing to Beethoven. Bouncing to Beethoven.
Okay.
I think there's possibilities abounding.
All right. How about you, Beth? What are you looking forward to?
Well, two things. We have the fireworks this weekend, which I think I
happening
know you're also
tonight.
probably excited about. Yes, tonight and tomorrow. And also, Lions are back.
They're back,
Football's
baby.
back. I love fall so much, and I'm so excited for football to be back on
Absolutely. I'm excited for both those things too. And yes, Beth, myself, and our partners are going to be on the field this weekend, rain or shine. We are going to be helping to bring the fireworks to life with amazing commentary about bounce houses.
So the
It'll be
Currently
great.
crew will be kind of running. We'll see some MC talent out there, and it'll be a great
absolutely.
time.
I love it. Well, thank you to both of you for another great show. If you happen to have any suggestions for our next food fight, email us at crystalfrost.com or just slide into those DMs on our Facebook under Currently with Crystal Frost. I just have to say, by the way, any food that you want to fight with is fine, right? Anything
Absolutely.
any suggestion, we will definitely consider every one of them. By the way, be sure to subscribe to the show on all the platforms at crystalfrost.com. You can follow us on social media. We are everywhere. You can subscribe to Crystal Frost. Currently with Crystal Frost, I should say, wherever you get your podcasts. You can also watch the full show on YouTube and Facebook. We are just everywhere. Currently is a Compass local podcast produced locally by Pancake Boy Productions. Big thanks to our lead supporter, Golden Fowler Home Furnishings. In addition to the wonderful West Shore Bank and the Coin Slot, we'll see you next week right here on Currently.